Good Wednesday morning and welcome to Preschool Storytime. I'm Miss Allison and it's great to have you with me today. We are going to have a scary story time today. We're going to read some spooky books about monsters because frankly it is so hot outside and I am ready to start thinking about cool weather and autumn. So what I want you to imagine is that there's a chilly breeze blowing outside. You can hear the leaves that have fallen off all the trees. They're kind of skittering around on the sidewalk and the streets. Maybe the trees or the leaves that are still on the trees have turned red and orange and yellow, and maybe the Halloween decorations are out. But it already feels a little bit cooler, doesn't it, when you imagine that? All right, I've got 3 spooky books for you today that'll hopefully keep you in that Halloween autumnish. Oops. Whoops. Technical difficulties. That'll keep you in that spooky autumnish mood. The first one I'm going to read to you today is I Need My Monster. Tonight, when I looked under the bed for my monster, I found this note instead. Gone fishing, back in a week, Gabe. What was I going to do? I needed my monster under my bed. How was I supposed to get to sleep if my monster was gone? I tried to sleep, but it wasn't the same without Gabe. I missed his ragged breathing, his nose whistling, the scrabbling of his uncut claws. How would I ever get to sleep without Gabe's familiar scary noises and his spooky green ooze? It was no use. Gabe would be gone for a week, and I just had to have a monster. I climbed quietly out of bed so my parents wouldn't hear me, because grown-ups have some strange ideas about monsters under beds. I knocked on the floorboards, then scrambled back under my covers and waited nervously. Would a new monster appear? What would he be like? Would his snorting be as cheerful as Gabe's? When I heard some creaking under my bed, I knew the substitute monster had arrived. "Good evening," said a low, breathy voice. "My name is Herbert, and I'll be your monster for the evening." "Herbert? What kind of name is that for a monster? You don't sound scary at all. Have you ever scared a kid before?" "Well, no, but I've read all the best books on the topic." "Do you have long teeth and scratchy claws?" I asked. "No, but I have an overbite, and I'm a mouth breather. Listen." Herbert's panting was kind of scary, but it wasn't enough for me. "Listen, Herbert, I'm sorry. I just don't think this is going to work. It's nothing personal, but I really need a monster with claws." Picky, Herbert complained. "As you wish, I'll go." There was some more creaking, then Herbert was gone. Some scratching warned me that a second monster had appeared. "Good evening," he said in a high, silky voice. "My name is Ralph. I understand you need a monster with claws. If you'd please lean over, I'll hold out an arm for inspection." I crouched on the edge of the bed, hoping to see a horrible, shaggy arm with sharp, ragged nails. Instead, I was surprised to see sleekly brushed fur with smooth, shiny claws. "Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude," I asked, "but is that nail polish on your claws?" "Yes, it is," Ralph replied. "I believe professional monsters should be always well-groomed." I could tell this was not going to work either. "I'm sorry to disappoint you, Ralph, but I need a monster with scary claws. Like Gabe's," I thought. I heard some more scratching, and I knew Ralph was gone. A minute later, a third voice from under the bed rasped, "Check out these claws, kid." I gathered my courage and peered over the edge. The claws were impressive, jagged and dark and razor sharp. So far, so good. I was a little nervous. "Could you stick out your tail?" I whispered. "Sure, but don't get scared." I peeked through my fingers at the slimy tail slithering over the foot of my bed. And that's when I noticed the bow. Are you a girl monster? Of course I am, she snapped. I'm Cynthia. You got a problem with that? Yeah, I do, I admitted. I need a boy monster. Boy monsters are for boys and girl monsters are for girls. Everybody knows that. Well, aren't you a picky one? She sniffed. And then she was gone. Was I being too picky? No. I knew that my monster needed to be well-clawed and menacing. The whole point of having a monster, after all, was to keep me in bed, imagining all the scary stuff that could happen if I got out. Then I heard a shuffling noise and some slobbering. A fourth monster was under my bed. Hey, the name's Mac. One look at his claws proved Mac was a big, scruffy boy monster. I shivered. Maybe this one would work out. Those are excellent claws. But do you have a long tail? I leaned over to see. No, my tail is stumpy, Mac slurped. But I do have an unusually long tongue. Why would I be afraid of a long tongue? I asked. Oh, I don't know, he said, trying to sound terrifying. You never know when I might lick you. I fell back on the bed laughing. You see why? That's pretty goofy looking. Well, if you're not even going to try to work with me, Mac whined. I held in my giggles. I really don't think you should send me away, he warned. Kids who reject 5 monsters in one night. I did not reject 5 monsters tonight. My regular monster went fishing. Fishing, eh? Maybe he just left because you're so picky. Fine, I'm out of here. But I wouldn't expect another monster tonight if I were you. How was I ever going to get to sleep without my monster? I was surprised to hear more creaking under the bed. A loud creaking with scratching. I thought no more monsters were going to appear tonight, I said. Sorry, I'm late, kid. Phew, it was Gabe. I thought I'd enjoy fishing, but I didn't, he explained. Those fish scare too easily. No challenge at all. You, however, are challenging, my friend. You're almost too old to be afraid of monsters, and you keep me on my toes. Ah, toes, a delicious snack. The bed quivered as Gabe's stomach rumbled with hunger. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to start the evening with an ominous puddle of drool. I peeked over the edge of the bed, and green ooze spread soundlessly from underneath. Then the bed trembled as Gabe unfurled his spiked tail. He was daring me to guess where he might pop up. I shivered. So you had some substitute monsters tonight, Gabe said, sharpening his claws on my bedpost. Were you scared? Then Gabe started tapping. I could tell he wanted to know if I still needed him. No other monster can scare me like you, I giggled, diving under my covers and pulling them up tight. Through the blanket, I heard Gabe's soft, comforting snorts. Ha! I knew it. We're made for each other, he growled. When my blanket started to slip off the bed, I knew Gabe was ready to eat. Now, if you could please stick out your foot, he said, I'd like to nibble your pinky toe. I yanked my blanket back up and scrunched my feet in so Gabe couldn't get them. No toes tonight, but you can have this, I offered, pushing my pillow off the bed. I didn't even hear it hit the floor. Gabe was back. The ooze was perfect, and everything was back to normal. I shivered again, and I'd be asleep in no time. The end. All right, can you hear those tree branches scratching on the window outside your house? Are you getting the sense that it's spooky and scary outside? Feeling a little bit more like autumn and Halloween? I hope so. All right, the second book is called Bedtime for Monsters. Do you ever wonder if somewhere not too far away there might be monsters? Because supposing there are monsters, do you think that this monster might be licking his lips and thinking about you? And if this monster is thinking about you, maybe he's thinking about you in an eating you up kind of way? Uh-oh. I hope not, because he's coming to find you right now on a little red bike with a bell, ring-a-ding-ding. And as he bicycles bumpily through a dark and terrible forest, bump, bumpity bump, do you think he's smiling because he remembered to pack his knife and fork? And as he crosses the gloopy shloopy swamp, gloop, gloop, shloop, do you think he's imagining just how good you'll taste all covered in ketchup? And as he tiptoes through thorns and thistles, scritch, scratch, ouch! Do you think he'll decide you'll taste even more delicious, squished and then squashed onto hot buttered toast? And at this very moment, as he climbs up cold and snowy mountains, getting closer and closer to you, don't you think he'll be feeling very hungry indeed? You're not scared, are you? Because if he is feeling very hungry indeed, while he searches high and low and up and down and in and out all over town, maybe you'll hear his big empty tummy rumbling and grumbling. He's a big dude. And if you do hear a rumbling and a grumbling, might you also hear a creak, creak, creak as he starts to climb the stairs? And as he opens your bedroom door, do you think he's licking his lips because he wants to gobble you up? Oh, no. It's much worse than that. This monster wants to give you a disgustingly sloppy goodnight kiss. Yuck. Because it's bedtime for monsters everywhere. Big ones like him and little ones just like you. He's got a teddy bear. Did you really think he'd eat you up? That's silly. Although you could leave out a little bedtime snack, just in case. All right. Oh, what's that? I think I hear a wolf howling in the distance, but maybe it's just my imagination. I don't know. All right, our final book for today's monster story time is The Monster Who Ate My Peas. So we've gone to a couple of books about monsters in bedtime. This one was about the monsters eating you up. This one's about the monster who ate up my peas. Eat your peas, said my mom, or you won't get dessert. I said, before peas, I'd rather eat dirt. I know you don't want to, she said with a glare, but until they get eaten, you'll stay in your chair. I begged and I whined. I got down on my knees. Please, Mom, don't make me eat all these peas. I stomped and I grumbled. I yelled and I pled. Why can't I eat corn or potatoes instead? Eat up those peas. Do it now, my mom said, or you'll get no ice cream and go straight to bed. What's in the trash can right there? Oh, my. My mom left the kitchen. I poked at those peas. Their sickening smell made me weak in the knees. Quickly, I offered the peas to my pup, but Ralph barely sniffed them, then turned his nose up. I closed my eyes tightly and whispered a wish. Please let these peas disappear from my dish. And something quite strange and mysterious occurred, almost as if somebody somewhere had heard. For right out of nowhere, a monster appeared. His hair looked like spinach, and so did his beard. His big, bloated body was broccoli green, and his breath, when he sneered, reeked of rotten sardines. Each eyeball resembled a big Brussels sprout. His long, bumpy squash nose was sticking straight out. Large, liver-like lips peeled back to reveal sharp teeth like a shark's and a tongue like an eel. Yuck. Long octopus tentacles writhed from his torso. Quite gruesome already, those arms made him more so. His ears were like mushrooms, his chin like a beet, and he balanced himself on two big, stinky feet. Just how he got in, I hadn't a clue. My heart skipped a beat as I asked, "Who are you? Isn't he awful looking?" He growled, "I'm the monster who helps kids like you. I eat up their eggplant. I eat turnips too. I gobble down foods that make small stomachs quiver, like lima beans, collard greens, spinach, and liver. I came in reply to your pitiful plea, and I'm ready and willing to eat every pea. I'll eat up the big ones, I'll eat up the small, but then you must give me your new soccer ball. Would you do that?" I thought of my soccer ball under my bed. I once bounced it 23 times on my head. But then when I looked at the peas on my plate, my brain filled with dread and disgust and with hate. "What is your answer?" the monster demanded. "I don't have much time, so I'll be very candid. Millions of kids want their yucky foods eaten, from Bali to Raleigh, from Chile to Sweden." "Okay," I said finally, "I'll give you my ball. Eat up my peas. Eat them up, one and all." He laughed a cold laugh as he picked up each pea and swallowed them down individually. All 64 peas, slimy, gruesome, and green. He ate every one, and he licked the plate clean. And after he'd licked and he'd lapped and he'd slurped, he sat down my plate and he boorishly burped. Then just as my mother came back in the room, he vanished, no trace, with a voice that went foom. Mom looked at my plate and she shouted with glee, "You did it! You ate each and every pea." She gave me a hug and my ice cream so yummy, with chocolate on top, so good in my tummy. Then I went on upstairs and peeked under my bed. I started to sweat, my heart filled with dread. For there, in the spot where my ball used to be, there was only one very small, squishy green pea. And now when I want to play soccer with Dad, I think of that ball and I get very sad. If I've said it one time, then I've said it 10. I won't make a trade with a monster again. Not long after that, we had peas with our meal. The monster appeared with the same kind of deal. "I'll eat up your peas just as quick as you like, but then in return you must give me your bike." I thought of my bicycle, shiny and new. I'd spent my whole savings to buy it. That's true. But when I looked down at those gloppy green peas, I felt like you feel when you get a disease. Would you make that trade? Would you make the trade of your bicycle if the monster ate your peas? I'd think about it. "Okay," I said sadly, "I'll give you my bike. Just eat at these peas. Get them out of my sight." The monster then opened his mouth very wide. He took all my peas and dumped them inside. He chewed and he chomped and he swallowed them down. Then, boom, he was gone, off for some other town. My mom served me cake, but I just couldn't eat it. I walked to the door feeling down and defeated. I twisted the knob and I shuffled outside to get on my bike and go out for a ride. I looked all around and I started to cry. My bike wasn't there. I think you know why. And right in the spot where my bike used to be, there was only one very small, mushy green pea. Now when my friends take their bikes for a ride, they never ask me, so I stay home inside. I've said it one time, and then I've said it 10. I won't make a trade with a monster again. But a week after that, there were peas in the stew. The monster showed up like he always would do. The words that he said made my whole body freeze. "Give me your puppy and I'll eat your peas." I looked down at Ralph. He gazed up at me. I looked at my plate at each ghastly green pea. "Come on," growled the monster. "I'm already late. Just give me your dog and I'll finish your plate." What is he going to do? He won't trade his dog, will he? I looked at those peas and I just about gagged. I looked back at Ralph and his scruffy tail wagged. My pup put his cold little nose on my knee. I reached for my fork and I speared a small